Well, here I started looking around for nothing really at all, and I was really intrigued by the villager, even though I literally couldn't do any trading with him, so I don't really know why. And then I just did literally nothing. Tried to grab a bed maybe? Nope, nothing. And went outside and finally found a tree, meaning I could finally get some tools. And then I got all the tools that I needed, and I was going to go find a bake eventually, but I was busy doing random things. And I tried to mine the furnace, but completely just gave up and started to make a base. And then I just got my first stone, so I could start building things. And now day 2 had started, just like that. And yet I continued to mine like nothing had happened really. Then eventually I found some coal and made some torches after ages. And I just kept mining and mining and mining just to get more, and eventually maybe I'll make a base. Wait, that iron? Oh, finally, bro. And after ages of mining, I had finally gotten some iron. Jesus, it took a while, bro. And well, I decided to make a makeshift base of like furnace and really a crafting table. Not much, really at all. And now we're actually starting to look like an actual base, sort of, but really just a carved out mine, more or less. And then I decided to finally venture up to the surface. I think it was to get water, judging by the way I was holding my bucket here. And I just grabbed some there from where the ice was actually melting from the sun. And I was clearly confused, admiring the sun. I then decided to walk over to a tree and start mining to get more saplings for it, because I needed more, so I could actually get more wood over time rather than being completely out of it. And it wouldn't be long until, you know, the next phase of the sunshine when I would actually start to get burnt, which not good. Then I decided that I was going to head back down into my base, but I tried to block off the water and it did literally nothing. And then eventually made it back to base to just drop off one thing and then go back out again. I don't really know what I went back out for. I might have been going out for more wood, to be honest, but I don't really know. And I more or less just started salvaging any leaf I could, even without a hoe for some odd reason. Don't know why I didn't decide to make one, it would have helped. And I mean, just look at how barren and wasted away all this land is because of the sun. I mean, wow. Not literally any tree nearby at all, apart from a little bit of scrap that there were around for me to just pick up, more or less just wood. No else really, because everything had burnt. Wait, yo, that sapling. Yo! And I've managed to find my first sapling. So I could start replanting the tree, which would obviously be underground, and then I got the second one right there. And I decided to try and fight the bear, which I don't really know why, I didn't really get anything from it, but I did. And I mean, look at me, I'm slaughtering the innocent polar bear child. I didn't even have any sympathy, I just killed the poor thing. I didn't even give it a chance to run away, I didn't leave, I just murdered it. And then I'm back at it again. Just mercilessly slaughtering the rabbit just for the food. And then I was just back on the move again, like always. And then I spotted this group of villagers and a few cows and like a polar bear. And then I'm just back at it again. I'm just murdering every single animal. The cows, the sheep, just every animal, just for food. It's all it's about, just food. And then I just ended up punching the polar bear. There was no point in punching the polar bear. I just did. What? I didn't even get anything. And then I tried to kill the villager too. But getting late, I just decided to return back home after getting all the food and camping that I needed. So I just ended up going back home. I then got home, took out all my iron and started cooking my food that I slaughtered for. And I just ate all of the food, and that's pretty much all I did for the rest of the day. I didn't really do anything else. And I just made a new axe and a new pickaxe. And that pretty much ended off day 2 until day 3 happened. And now it was day 3, and I tried to head to sleep, but it was clearly not night time yet. Okay, let's go. Now don't forget, the sun can burn me now. Ah, shit. Get in the water, get in the water, quick. Fucking hell, it burns. And have you just witnessed? I just encountered my first ever attack on my life in this playthrough. I immediately ran back inside because I did not want to mess with the gun any longer. And I just kind of stood in shock. Then I decided to move all of my things and start mining to get a better home. Oh, alright, yo. I then found a perfect spot to put my base down after a while of trying to find one. And perfect. And I started to make my first farm underground for the trees, so I could start getting more wood because running out of it. You're looking pretty fire. Yo, gold crown, bro. What? Okay, just touch what am I doing? Shut up. No. Not today. No. And I finally made it back, and I thought to make another tree farm because that one wasn't working enough. Although I found some more iron, which is pretty good. Done. Finally done coming out. Just put dirt down now. Perfect. After a while of building, I had finally made the last one, and I don't really know what to do with torches. I'm a bit weird. And after all of that building, that pretty much ended off day 3, moving on to day 4. And then I decided to go on a little adventure. I don't really know what I was doing, but I think I was trying to head to the Cliffy, I believe. Dear God. No, yeah, I'm probably just gonna back. Yep. And I gave up on that idea, but thought of something different. I found it. Then I thought of something unexpected. And I found some decent loot. It wasn't really that great. Until I had found a mending book. But then I continued with my plan. And my plan was simple. I would use the cave water to then dig up to the surface where I could stay in the water from the sun and I wouldn't die of the heat damage. But I don't know if I would be able to succeed in this plan. But I tried to make doors, and turns out we had no planks. I had the wood issue, so I had to head back and try and get some more wood. But turns out none of my saplings had grown, because I didn't know this at the time, but they were not big enough to grow. And I didn't really know this, but I decided to try and make them bigger, because I assumed that they weren't big enough, but I didn't really know. But like everything in this challenge, I ran out of planks, so I couldn't make any chests, so I was utterly screwed. But then I remembered, there was chests in that mine from earlier. And luckily, I had a temporary fix to my problem of not having any storage. Thank God. And I have made it back to then place down the chest and immediately empty all my inventory. But I didn't finish actually extending the roof yet, so I got back to doing that. And yeah, I didn't even know that didn't even do anything. That proof file didn't even work. And I sleep. And I woke up the next day to then try and use bone meal and figured out that it doesn't work. Alright, here goes. Bruh. Why won't it work? And obviously, I was irritated because it wouldn't work. And then I had to try and expand on it yet again. Okay. And just like that, my pickaxe broke. I had no sticks to make a new one. And after aging waiting, the first tree had finally spawned. Meaning after 30 minutes of footage at this point, I could finally make a new pickaxe after aging. I then done some tree harvesting, so I could get some more sticks and some more saplings. And since I got my pickaxe back, it was time to mine again, and fill in the gap where I'd left off last. I tried to use some bone meal on the tree, but it didn't really work. So I just kinda left it, to be honest. But the plan was finally happening after a long time. I then made it to the cave, where I grabbed a water bucket and went to go and find the perfect spot to do it. And I looked up and I saw literal death just awaiting me. And I left. I didn't go. I didn't want to go. I was gonna die if I went, so I ultimately just went back home. And I came back to then make a water course. Yep, found it. Then I decided to go out mining again, cause I could do some more iron for an anvil, cause of that mending book that I got. I then found my first cave. And the gun was, yeah. I then spoke mine, so I immediately tried heading over to it. Finally. I also had some coal. I could do some coal. Oh, redstone. Oh, more iron. I then bought even more iron. I was doing quite well off. And by literally no surprise, I found more iron again. And guess what? I found more iron. Then I made it back home, and guess what? The tree hadn't grown. But regardless, I decided to try and make a farm eventually. Or basically digging out a foundation for where a farm was going to be. Because I didn't have any seeds, so the farm would literally just be pointless. Although I'm pretty happy with the result that came out of it, but I couldn't actually do any farming because I didn't have any seeds. So I would eventually have to find some. But as a result of this, I decided to go out and try and find some in a mine. Well, I was lucky enough to find some iron on the way there. Literally about 2 blocks down. Then I had found the cave that I was trying to head to. But I had to be really cautious because if I died, the whole video is over. And I may not be playing hardcore, but I will end the challenge. But I found some iron and decided to mine it. But I was being extra cautious because I didn't want to die. Didn't want to have to, you know, do this whole challenge all over again. But I found more iron ore, and I decided to take the rail for some reason. I don't really know why, but I guess I'm gonna plan on making a future railroad system. But I hadn't found any chests so far, so I was not off to a good start really at all. Apart from the iron that I had gathered, which was pretty nice. So I just kept looking, and looking, and I found nothing. But decided to fight this zombie that was here, and got the Monster Hunter achievement for the first time somehow. And then this... why? Like, my man's had a cord, and yeah, pointless though. But I hadn't realised that I had just found my first diamond. But I had a bit of a challenge to get to them first. And just like that, I got my first diamond. But I don't know why I just ignored the iron and kind of put a block down. Could have just mined it. A bit weird generation then, just redstone beneath the iron. Cause why not again? But ripped the iron. Did not go to get it whatsoever, just kinda moved on. You can hear it, here I am just checking every single doorway. I don't know why I didn't just mine the iron. I could have while I was there. I don't know. But I spotted the creeper and just ran. And you can see I'm terrified. I just bolt and block it off. Don't want to go anywhere near him. And I had finally decided to head back up, go back to the base. Then I have made it back home, safe. But I just made my first diamond pickaxe, and I think I started to make an anvil so I could actually use the mending book. But I'm listening to music here now, clearly vibing out. And then I had cut in a vine, I had made the anvil, and I could break it down and put mending on my diamond pickaxe. And I had finally got it, so now my pickaxe shouldn't break. But I started to make the base try and look a little bit better because now it was just a farm and like a wall in between. I thought it looked pretty good actually. But obviously it could do with some fixes later down when I can actually afford the saplings. But I couldn't really add planks in the roof because I didn't have the wood to, so I had to wait. And all I ended up doing was just adding a support beam. But other than that one, that was pretty much the end of day 4. and I made some farmland, but my footage decided to not record it, so I had no video footage of it. And I decided to put a waypoint down for B, so if I was ever out and about I could make my way back. And after running around aimlessly, I decided to make a plan to maybe go find some carrots. But I stumbled upon a cave which had some options, so I just decided to block it entirely off. And then back to mining I went. But right next to it, there was mine, so quite nice actually. And I'd finally found the mine shaft, which was close to where I wanted to go. But I found the chest and there were some carrots, but power 1. Yay. And disclaimer, I put the carrots in there because they were otherwise unattainable in the challenge. And I plotted mine, so I decided to mine it, but I think I got attacked by a mob. And you see that? That's gold. I completely left it. And so I started to make my way back, but you will see, I could not find the exit. But unintentionally I ran into a mob farm, and I took care of that, and then I took the loot from the chests, which were decent. But I got poisoned and just waited for the poison to wear off before I started to loot. Although I found beetroot seeds, but did I really need beetroot seeds? Nope. And I found a golden apple, so that was quite nice. And I started to make my way to the mob spawner for the spider so I wouldn't get poisoned again. But I started getting going to try and find the exit, which I took about 10 minutes of footage to try and get to. And on my way I found some diamonds, so yeah. Decades later, I had finally found the exit. And after some off-cam walking, I made it back, and then immediately got to planting my new stuff. I don't know why I ate the carrot. I could have just ate the bread, and I could have just planted the carrot, but hey, I guess. And I started smelting my things, like all my ore that I got, and that gold, which I could make some gold carrots, and I decided, let's renovate. Okay, you guess what happened here? The footage failed! Again! And it got back to me after I chopped down the tree, and not much had happened. But I thought to make a clock so I can actually see what time it was, and I wouldn't have to go to the server and burn. But I made the clock, and I need a night frame. And then placed it down so I could actually tell what time it was. I then planted a new sapling and used bone meal so I could actually, you know, chop it down with the footage this time. Then got stuck underneath the tree when I bone milled it, so yeah. And I was just trying to more or less find some wood so I could, you know, have sticks and whatever I'd need. And I tried to move on the tree, but I ran out, so yeah. And I had done putting all my iron, so I started putting all my gold. And I had made my first diamond axe. And I decided to make my first bow and enchant it with power 1 for some reason. And now we can enchant it with power 1. And I just kind of rearranged torches. I don't really know what I was doing. Then I just made some bone meal so I could actually grow some crops. So I could make the farm a bit bigger. And I decided to finally finish making my farm. It looks pretty good. And I tried hitting the sleep, but it wasn't night time yet, so I had to wait. Then I finally fell asleep after ages of waiting. Then I woke up again and don't really know what I was doing. I was just kind of looking around. Then I decided to wait for the crops to grow so I could expand the farm again. I cut it out, but I was just peeking for about a minute until I'd actually decided to, expand the farm. And I had not really expanded the farm, but made it a bit bigger, so it worked for now. But I tried heading back to sleep again, even though I had literally just slept. But I decided to make some bone meal so I could speed up the process of regrowing the crops and making the farm a bit bigger. I then grabbed the carrots and got to making the farm a bit bigger. But I didn't really get that many carrots, so I had to work with what I had. But then I decided to make them flat so that the aesthetic of the farm would look a bit better. I don't even know what this was, I was just randomly walking. I don't even know, I was just bored out of my mind waiting for the crops to grow. I don't even know what this was. I was just trying to do a 360, I guess. I don't really know. I was just bored out of my mind. But apart from that, that was the end of day 5. I then just kind of spawned in, looking around. I don't really know what for. But I decided to go on a little adventure. So I think I had a plan in my mind at the time. Okay, get in the water, quick, get in the water. But I didn't realise I had just survived another attack against my life. And after a little bit of finicking, I finally got my torches back and placed them back down in the stairwell again. And I believe that I was looking for caves to find some more looting, but I don't really know because I don't have notes for these days, so I don't know. Then I decided to try and have an idea for something. And guess what happened here? The footage cut out! Then we came back to a bit later where I filled the whole area that I had with water. But and it kind of to, continue to make it a bit bigger. I'm not kidding you, but this building took ages of the footage. I think a day came with the majority of which is just building. I had then finished building and decided to head back to my base. But as I returned, none of the crops had grown, but they had only slightly grown and the tree hadn't grown at all, so yeah. Then I kind of paced back and forth for a bit and then headed to bed. Before then getting up again and back to picking I went. But I decided to name my pickaxe Buddy, because I didn't really give it a name, so I decided to. And I did the same with my axe, and I don't remember what I called it. But obviously watching it, I called it a little Jim Bob. At this point, I think I was just pacing back and forth, waiting for the crops to grow. That's all I was really doing. Then I decided to make more torches, and I were beginning to run out of them. And I thought the place was pretty good for the torches, actually. But I got tired of this little wall in between, so I decided to get rid of it finally. But then obviously they spotted that iron, which I should have seen first, but I didn't. But after adjusting some torches, I had finally gone to get the iron, which was sat there waiting. Or apparently, do torches first. Okay. Then I had finally grabbed the iron, which was actually 4 instead of 2. After that, I then started to configure with the torches again. Although I'm pretty happy with the result after I'd configured it for a little bit of the footage. I don't really know what I'm doing here. I just mind open the thing for the aesthetic, but I don't really know. I didn't have any notes for this day, but I believe I'm going to get lava, judging how I emptied out my bucket. I then made it down to the cave where the lava was. So I could go and collect it and make an infinite lava clock eventually. I then finally made it back to base, and I could start making that infinite lava generator, but I needed to carve out a bit in the wall. And all I needed was a cauldron. But no, I needed dripstone, and I didn't get any, so, you know, I couldn't actually make this infinite lava generator that I wanted to. But I hadn't realised it wasn't tall enough, so I had to make it a bit taller again. And I was about to make a critical mistake. Ow, 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 ow. Water. What do I do? And the tree had caught on fire, and I couldn't do anything to extinguish it. So, I was completely stranded, and I had to put out the lava, but I was struggling. And I couldn't save the tree. The tree that had just grown? Nope. No harvesting that. And I just watched it burn down. And I couldn't do anything. Too late. And I was stood there, just shocked. Because of my stupid decision. And I wasn't quick enough. And just like that, they could come to an end. Then I came back, and I had to repair everything that had happened. And then did it again. And the sapling had burnt. And by the point when I was playing it, I was getting quite irritated, because it happened multiple times now. But after what had happened, I had fixed the torches and kind of moved on. But after that, I wanted to go and find some dripstone in the cave, but couldn't spot any nearby. Then I decided to go up, try and see to what height I could go up to now. But I made it up, and it wasn't burning, surprisingly. Even though it was supposed to be above level 25, even though it was level 30 there. Then I decided to head back down, because I didn't really need to go there, didn't really have any reason for. But then I looked there, and decided maybe I should head into the cave and find some dripstone there. And then I began looking, but there was no dripstone in sight whatsoever. But there was a witch there, which splashed me with poison, so that was just wonderful. And I'd blocked off the cave, because nope, I was not heading back there until I healed. Then I headed back down, and decided to maybe make some golden carrot to heal. Some kind of carrot and I ate some gold. But before I realised, I think I already ate 3 of them, so I only have 1. But it was more than enough to actually get me back my health, which I needed to go back into the cave again. And so I headed back to the cave to eventually, and hopefully, kill that witch, because I was not going to be poisoned again, no. But I was being overly cautious, because I didn't want to get splashed with poison again, judging how I didn't literally have any food with me, so yeah. And as I walked over there, guess who was there? The witch! But I did spot iron, so completely ignored it, and just tried to find dripstone, which my plan was originally. And you see that fumble there? The worst fumble of the century, I tell you. But not wanting to risk it, I just didn't go down and left her down there because she wasn't really an issue anymore. Although I don't know what I thought blocking it off would do, but I guess I just kinda did. Then I went back to trying to go and find dripstone, but to be honest with you, I didn't find any whatsoever, so all of this was pointless. Then, not being able to get dripstone, I decided to head back to my base. I then made it back, but I guess I was just waiting for the crops to grow again. I then grabbed my iron and then started cooking the gold that I had just gotten from mining. And I was waiting for gold to melt while I was just standing there. And the gold had finally finished. And I got bored, so I started doing this random crouching thing, yet again. But I then realised I didn't actually have full armour yet, so I got to making all my armour which I didn't have. Looking pretty good. But then I had to go back out again. Okay, water. But since I didn't change the day earlier on, I only realised now that it can no longer safe to go up to that height anymore, since it's above Y level 25. So, obviously I went back down to my base again. But this time that I came back, we were moving. It was not going to be safe to actually be where we were, so I had to move further down. And you can became my no there to the lava which was there. That would be my last thing that I would bring, if bringing it at all. Then I started mining my way to my new base. I then finished making the infinite water closet, and I could now start putting dirt around it. I then spotted this big open area with some mobs inside. I then grabbed the iron, but encountered a creeper and a zombie at the same time. This was my first near actual death. And you see that? That was a baby zombie as well. Well, if I didn't get out of there in time, I would have actually died. But I just ignored it and went back to actually making my farm. But after that, I decided to then move down my actual, crops. Then I decided to make some more golden carrots. So, I wouldn't never have a near-death experience like that ever again. And I don't really know why I decided to plant the beetroot. Well, 'cause like I wasn't really going to use them. I only really wanted the carrots. But by the by, I guess. And I then got back all my health and I decided to, you know, make the baker a bit more nice and presentable. I could then grab some more carrots to then plant them further down, and then eventually I would actually, you know, move my stuff from the chest, but I didn't do that yet. And instead I decided to make some more gold carrots, because, you know, like I said earlier, I don't want to be in that experience ever again. And I don't know what I was really doing. I should have just like moved my stuff into a chest lower down, but you know, I didn't do that. I just kind of waited and you know, stayed back, but I don't really know. Then I believe this is when I started to get the idea to, you know, move my things into a chest further down in my actual, you know, new base. But I had finally finished my room, but you know, didn't decorate it, but I finally had an area to put all my stuff. So that was positive. And I gradually started moving everything down bit by bit. And I finally moved everything into the chest after a lot of transferring back and forth. But I wanted to make sure before day 7 would end and I wouldn't be able to come back up, that I would grab everything, and I mean everything, to bring it back down to the base. And then I started to, you know, it looked pretty good. So I, you know, made sure not to forget my clock, but I think I would probably leave the lava, because I didn't even have any drips done anyway, so there was no point in even bringing it. But obviously I started harvesting the wood from the wall, because, you know, every bit of wood is desirable in this, you know, world. And this will probably be the last time that I would ever be up here again, in this base. And so, I said my farewells. And grabbed my crops, and the rest of them weren't grown, so I just left, and took the cauldron with me, and that was the last of all I would ever take. And so I left, and went back to my new base, where I was safe, and went back to sleep. But I had then woken up to put my clock on the wall, and started a new day again. But I then went to immediately start growing my crops and make the farm a bit bigger, and I still don't know why I kept trying to make the beetroots grow. There was no point in growing them. But I went back up again, wanted more torches, but I mainly wanted to get the dirt and maybe get some carrot off there. I don't really know what I was doing here. Maybe I was trying to get the lava or something. I don't really know. Or maybe just leave, I don't know. But I then pushed down a door and I don't really know what for, because there was no point. I guess for the aesthetic. But then started promoting my iron. And then I decided to start expanding my base again. Into that new area where there was a bunch of mobs before. And I started attacking them from that height, even though I could barely reach them. And then one zombie picked up the deep slate, so yeah. But after I killed them, I immediately jumped down and started placing torches and filling in the holes that were there so that no mob could charge in. And I finally finished off mining the roof, and now I would start mining down so I could start growing trees after I'd finished mining this, obviously though. But you know, to get up I needed some ladders, so I decided to make some. And by the point in the gameplay, it hit me that I needed to actually mine down, which was the plan originally, but yeah. And then I went up, hoping that the carrot would have been grown, but they weren't, so that was just wonderful. But I went down and ultimately realised I should probably take the lava that's actually, still in there before it, is no longer useful in their day. After I then grabbed the lava, I went back to base and I was gonna go put it in the chest. But I was about to make a horrible mistake. I have made the worst fumble known to man. If you play back the footage, I was trying to open the door, but placed a lava bucket outside. Worst fumble of all time. And so I immediately stored away the lava bucket to be never used again. Since I could not be trusted with it since I made that worst known to man fumble right there. And after this I had pretty much ended off day 7, until day 8. Then I loaded back in, and I just kind of stood there. And then I immediately tried to get to work on the thing that I was working on. And again, I did another fumble. And as I went to the surface, I wonder. Okay, water, maybe water. And I have managed to get up. But now I couldn't harvest any crops or any items because they would all just incinerate. And so I just manually harvested everything and mined the slabs that were there, and finally came my buying to that old base I would never actually return again. Then I grabbed all my iron out my furnace and just started storing things in my chest. And then I went back to go and dig out that platform. My pickaxe had broken, so I had to go and make another one, since I was mining that much. But after I had made the new pickaxe, I immediately got to mining again. And I thought it looked pretty good, but I obviously had to keep mining, and I fell into a cave. And I found some iron in the chest, and the name tag, it wasn't really that great loot. I don't really know why, but I had to go make a sword just to get rid of a cobweb. I then had made the sword and got rid of the cobweb, and I was kind of glad that I did, because like it would take ages to actually get rid of it. So, yeah. And now my second pickaxe broken, yet again, so I had to go make another one, again. And I bought some iron, so I started to mine it. And by this point I had plenty of iron, but any bit of iron that I could get was great. And I just went back to mining, yet again. Yay! But I'd finally finished, and now I all I needed to do was put dirt in the middle and I could actually start planting the tree. And maybe it'll be tall enough for a 4x4, but I don't really know. And I started to put torches around the corner so that it would actually have enough light to be able to grow, which, you know, is needed. But I had run out of torches, so I decided to make some more. All after I was done rearranging the torching, that was pretty much it for the tree farm. And I decided eventually later on, I think in day 9, where I would start to make an actual, you know, bigger farm right there. But now I was done rearranging. And I then went back inside, but I think I was just morally sorting out my chest because I had a bunch of deep slate from all of that mining that I just did. But I put my iron in there and then decided that, you know, I would need to actually smelt that iron. But ultimately, I just ended up heading to sleep. But when I woke up, I just grabbed the iron that was smelted and that was pretty much it. Apart from me, you know, farming, and that was almost it for actual day 8. But I don't really know why I kept, you know, re-harvesting the beetroots, because I didn't actually eat them, so what was the point? But after I had finished farming, I just kind of went back into my room and kind of stood there. And this was pretty much it for day 8. I didn't really do anything else important, apart from maybe reorganising my chest, but that was it, pretty much. And I don't really know why I planted the melon seed. I did just get the melon seed, but I don't think I realised that melons actually need a block gap in order to grow. I then decided to try and smelt the copper. I don't really know why I wanted to smelt the copper, because I didn't have a reason to smelt the copper. But I did decide to try and make some slabs to make the water look a bit nicer. I then ultimately decided to plant the tree, which was, you know, there waiting for it to be planted. And as you can see, I was being quite lazy with the ladders. I just didn't make any more, just made enough to actually get up. Then decided to do a bit of chest organising, because I had a lot of stuff in my inventory which could have just done with going in a chest, to be honest. Mostly I was just waiting for the copper to be done this morning so I could actually shove it in the chest. But now, this was pretty much the end of day 8, and I just headed to sleep. Loaded in back where I left off, and I didn't really do anything until I then went up again. Don't really know what for, but I did. I think it was still daytime. I had to use the water bucket, but I don't really know what I was doing. I guess I was just reminiscing of what used to be, but yeah. And I spotted that I still had the waypoint, and I got rid of that, and then I decided to actually go and make one down at my real base now. I then went back down and I just started sorting out inventory again. But I started to make that waypoint that I was on about. And I decided to call it Base 2.0 instead of Base, so it was a bit, you know, unique from the first base. But I then made some doors to fix the aesthetic, which wasn't really looking that great, but now it looks better than it did. And seeing the footage there, I left a torch behind the door. But finally, I'd realised that you actually needed one block gap for the melons to grow, and I didn't realise that before, but now I have. But then I noticed that the carrots were done growing, so I had one spare carrot to put in my chest. But it turns out I just ended up eating the carrot instead. But remember that farm that I brought up earlier? I decided to finally make that farm. But I needed more water, so I went to go and grab some more water to fill up the farm. And then that was the farm done. And all I needed to do now was just add crops to it, so that, you know, I could actually get food from the farm. And I get I was tight on carrots, right? But why did I keep using beetroot? I was not eating the beetroot, so what was the point in actually growing them? And I still hadn't patched up the hole that was there. But instead I just tried heading to sleep. But it was too early to head to sleep, so instead I just tried to refill up my water bucket that I had. And after I did, I went to go and fix up the farm with some slabs. And I was just looking down in admiration of what I've done so far now. It looks pretty good. But yeah, it looks actually pretty good now, and I just had to go and collect my deep slate, which is dropped on the floor. And again, why was I planting beetroot? I don't need them. Just plant carrots. I should have just waited for the carrots to grow, if I'm gonna be real with you. I don't really know what I was doing here. I think I was trying to look for a cave that I could have gone to, but at this point I didn't really need to go to a cave. It might have been to get some gold for gold carrots, to be fair. But after I was done with that, I just kind of went back inside and tried heading to sleep, because I thought it was night time, but it was apparently not. But I decided to head out and go and get some gold, and or try and find some gold. But ultimately I decided just to head back. I didn't actually, you know, fulfill my promise of wanting to go out and get the gold. And instead I just made my way back to the base. Before then realising something. What if, at night time, you could head to the surface? And so I tried testing this theory, and as you can see, I was jumping. I made it up, and I wasn't burning. And I made it to where I once used to never be able to go out. And I went outside. I was on the surface once again. And it was nice to just be back on the surface again. But also sad to just see all of the land be barren and a wasteland. Of what used to be such a thriving village was now just a empty, desolate place, and I didn't want to die, so I just ran back inside and covered everything up again to make sure that I wouldn't get burnt by the sun before I was too late. Before I then made it back and I just went to sleep. Before then waking up in the morning and I just went walking. I don't know what I was looking for. I don't know what I was exploring for. Maybe I was trying to get gold. I don't know. But I went back in the cave again. And I'd re-entered the cave where I used to be, where that chest with all the carrots were, and I maybe thought there might have been some gold here. But the reason why I needed the gold was because I wanted gold carrots, because those were my main food source apart from just plain old carrots. And I had run out of gold carrots by this point, so I needed some more. Although, I did get a golden apple from the chest. It's not what I wanted, but I mean it worked. Although there was that zombie that jumped down and tried to attack me, but it did not work. And one zombie literally burnt from the gun. I came out to become carrots being ready, so I grabbed those and tried to plant them. But first I would need to actually empty my inventory. But I then had all the iron that I needed, and I just needed to smelt it all. But after I smelted it all, I waited so I could actually head to sleep. But in the meanwhile, I decided to go and plant my pumpkin seeds in the new farm. Before I then headed back up and just waited to head to sleep. But other than that, that was pretty much the end of day 9.